Bismillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. You're here joining us on the Islam Channel sofas once again, alhamdulillah, for the Today Show. Now, we always bring you exciting guests and we learn a lot about Islamic lifestyle, and today is no different, inshallah. So today, we're pleased to say that we're joined by a wonderful brother called Abdullo Kurbanov, and he's the CEO and co-founder of Ayan Capital, and he's also the co-founder of Alif Bank. Now, to learn a little bit more, let's watch this video.
When we returned from our studies and work experiences abroad back to Tajikistan, we found out that the banking sector was lagging behind in terms of technology, customer service and risk management. In addition to the high interest rates and high non-performing loan ratios, making payments like paying for utility bills, for example, required going to a bank and sometimes standing in a queue for hours. In 2014, to solve these problems, we established Alif with 2 full-time and 2 part-time employees. Today, with a much larger team, hundreds of thousands of clients and millions in revenue, Alif has firmly established itself as the leading fintech company and one of the most trusted banks in Tajikistan. With a rapid and successful international growth and international recognition. Today, our vision is to build the global champion in Islamic fintech through our efforts in finance, technology and education. To begin with finance, our current retail ecosystem is built around 3 core revenue drivers: buy now, pay later financing, digital payments and remittances. These products are provided through Alif Mobi, the #1 finance app, Alif Shop, the leading online marketplace, and in the thousands of stores of our wide merchant network. We are building clear leadership positions in every market where we operate. Our clients are growing more engaged with every passing year, and every single cohort is more active than the cohort that came before. In 2020, we signed a strategic partnership with Visa, which then was the only such strategic partnership with a commercial bank in the entire Central Asian region. All of that, of course, was made possible only thanks to the incredibly passionate and hard-working people who joined our team, united by Alif's values and vision. As Alif was increasingly becoming recognized as the exceptionally meritocratic and dynamic team to join, we started receiving thousands of job applications and selecting 1 to 2% to join our team. Alif is truly blessed, some of the most energetic, persistent, brave and noble people. And there is nothing that is more important. We actually started with a very limited IT background. We were using simple Excel spreadsheets for the first 2,000 clients. But thankfully, over time, we have been able to build one of the strongest IT teams in this part of the world. And today we're using the latest technologies and architecture. Now, Alif is a technology-first organization with its own internally written proprietary core banking system, mobile wallet, processing gateway, client relationship management software, and many other banking technologies. As we faced the challenge of finding people with the coding skills early on, in 2017 we established Alif Academy to provide free programming courses. And over time it grew to become a full-fledged educational technology platform teaching thousands of people how to code. The best graduates join Alif and many more get access to jobs and opportunities they didn't have before. Today, we're teaching at elementary schools. We have courses specifically for girls, and we are expanding to other countries. Finance, technology, and education. Each is tied into the other, propelling us on our journey of building the world's leader in Islamic fintech.
Wow, mashallah, tabarakallah. Now, brothers and sisters, I'm sure that was a wow moment for you, just as much as it was for us here in the studio. Alhamdulillah, great to see Brother Abdullo and the team doing so well, and obviously doing so well in Tajikistan as well. So, alhamdulillah. So, without further ado, we'll welcome Brother Abdullo to the studio. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Jazakallah khair for joining us. And it truly was a wow moment. I'm really glad that we got to see the video to break down your journey a little bit and see it, visualize the offices and everything that you've done. So Brother Abdullah, tell us a little bit about that journey in your own words, if you can briefly.
Sure. Thank you for inviting. It's a great pleasure to be here speaking with brothers and sisters who are, watching. So my background started here in the UK. My career started here. I was in investment banking. I then went back home to Tajikistan. Tajikistan is actually, you saw some snapshots there. It's a beautiful mountainous country. It's about 10 million population, landlocked in Central Asia. But Alhamdulillah, it's very nice for those who wish to see mountains, lakes. I went back home in about 14, 15 years ago now, and then initially, as I've mentioned, we saw that the banking sector was lagging behind. So we wanted to establish the first Islamic and technological bank in the country, but being fairly young back then, we couldn't convince any investors to put money in our idea. So we just started ourselves with my co-founders, Firdaus. So we started with the smallest license we could afford. Okay. We started Alif 10 years ago, and Alhamdulillah, at the moment, the numbers are slightly have been updated. At the moment, we have 1,200 team members, very young team, dynamic. 25 is the average age. We serve 2.5 million customers. We became a fully fledged bank in 2020. We expanded to Uzbekistan. We became one of the leaders there in point of sales finance. In Tajikistan, we have about 90% of market share in point of sales finance. Wow. We are leaders in visa payments. We are leaders in electronic money payments in the country with about 55% market share. Alhamdulillah, and as mentioned, we've built all of the technology in-house with about 300 developers in our team. With today, we're trying to working on expanding Alif internationally. We've started our operations in Pakistan. We are starting our operations in the UAE, and thankfully, Alif is on that journey. And I've decided to relocate here in the UK because we feel that Islamic banking and Islamic fintech has to grow, faster and be, we should put our effort into globalizing that because if you look at the Muslim population in the world, which is about 25%, the unbanked part of the population, which is 1.7 billion of people worldwide, approximately half are from Muslim countries, and even in countries like the UK, the Muslim population tends to be underbanked. So that's why I'm here today.
That's why you're here today. Now, Brother Abdullo, you used a word in your video, you used the word blessed. And it's almost like, you've done what you've, had to do back home, and you want to share it with the wider Muslim community, hence, expanding to places like Pakistan and who knows, other Muslim countries, inshallah, in the future. That's also part of the ethical banking or the Islamic banking side of it. Is that something that you felt you wanted to share?
Of course. Being in the banking sector, having access to a bank account, having access to finance is very important for growth of well-being of people. I mean, again, back from 15 years ago, my mother had to stand in a queue to pay for electricity bill, and at times it took hours. If I wanted to transfer money to someone, I would have to see them in person. I would have to go, take a transport, spend a couple hours, see them in person, and pass on the funds. So we used to spend hours and hours and hours on the things which today can be done on a click of a button.
Absolutely.
And all of that time can be spent with people you love, doing things that, improve your well-being. And similarly, in many countries, access to finance, access to banking sector, access to finance is quite complicated, quite challenging. In Pakistan, the sector is growing rapidly, but to this day, according to some data, less than 1% of the population has access to finance. And imagine if that keeps improving, how yes. Things. And similarly, across many of countries with Muslim populations.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about Ayan Capital. So this is something, when did you set this up and this journey started, and what's the vision for Ayan Capital?
So we started Ayan Capital in September last year. The reason we started Ayan was that in that effort of making Islamic fintech global, being in a market which is a bridge of sort of Western liquidity and finance with the countries in our part of the world, the UK is really well placed. And more than that, the UK is one of very, very few countries in the world where you can actually feasibly establish a bank. And having started a bank from scratch in Tajikistan and building more our presence in the region, we felt like, where else can we establish a bank, which we already have some technologies and know-how for, and we looked around the world, and in many countries you need to have majority local shareholder, like 51% has to be local, or you tend to have 50, 100 million plus in capital requirement. But in fact, in the UK, you can establish a bank with, you can be a foreigner, you can come here, you can establish a bank. You don't have to have local majority shareholders. You can start it with 5 million euro in terms of capital, and sort of it's from the pre-Brexit sort of norms.
Sure.
And it's actually possible. The regulator wants to promote competition because they want to decrease the share of the banks which are too big to fail, and therefore you have so many challenger banks here in the UK. So it's possible to establish a bank here. Now, with that understanding, we thought, where can we start so that we can test our hypotheses as soon as possible? That's why when I came here last year, I started having meetings, doing research, taking taxi quite often, taking Uber, Bolt, Free Now cars, and as I was speaking to the drivers, I've noticed a trend.
Okay.
Most of the drivers, they come from Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, Afghanistan, Somali. Most of them, they want to have Islamic finance in place. Most of them have similar challenges. And one of the biggest challenges is that lately there's a major trend towards electric and cleaner cars, plug-in hybrid cars, which need to be certain standard. And those cars are expensive. So despite the fact that there's a lot of push towards making cars cleaner,
sure.
For example, Uber wants to have 100% of cars electric by end of 2025. So far, only about 20-25% are electric, according to the latest data we have seen. So that challenge, one of the reasons why we don't see that transition is in lack of Islamic finance for a segment which is predominantly comes from Muslim countries. So we thought we would try to address this market.
So that's the private hire car, is that correct?
Exactly. So the sector overall is called private hire vehicle cars. In London, it's called PCO drivers. So people who make their income by driving Uber, Bolt, Free Now, Willy, Black Lane.
And this is obviously it's a huge market. We all know that, alhamdulillah. But also this is a good starting point, isn't it? Because this product is available, or this type of product is available to many different people who perhaps would seek it. And I think you mentioned something about competition as well. There needs to be a healthy competition for people to compare the different products that are out there as well.
Absolutely. I mean, in the overall, the finance sector in the UK is, of course, quite advanced. And even the Islamic finance sector in the UK, if you look at the assets, it's about sort of £7 billion. It's 10 times more than the Islamic banking assets in the US. So you would imagine the Islamic banking assets in the UK, generally the Islamic finance sector is here quite, there are a lot of startups, etc. But even then, the Islamic banking assets make less than 0.1% of the total banking assets. There's huge room for growth. There's so much more that needs to be done. As I was speaking to the drivers, simple things as a deposit, as a Sharia compliant income for their liquidity, they are having to call their banks and asking them to please put my money at 0% interest because I don't want to have any riba.
Absolutely.
So if there was an ecosystemic Islamic technological bank with user-friendly products which would give Sharia compliant income for people's excess liquidity, and similarly many other services, I feel that there's still lots that could be done. So competition, of course, the more the better, including within the Islamic finance space in the UK.
No, that's really interesting. It really, really is, alhamdulillah. And speaking about perhaps the future of Ayan Capital and Alif Bank, where else do you see opportunities perhaps? Have you already got other things in the pipeline, for example? What else have you got in mind here in the UK?
So hopefully, as we've started our journey here in the private hire vehicle car finance area, we want to in the future expand towards general car finance for everyone. Hopefully from there onwards, we see opportunity both in terms of larger finance, things like mortgages and as well as day-to-day banking. So it would require a regulatory milestones to be achieved, and we will hopefully be in that process, and I hope that we can obtain all the necessary regulatory approvals to start offering a variety of services.
And do you provide those already back home?
Yes, yes. So back home in Tajikistan, we are a fully fledged bank. We provide both retail and corporate banking services, and we serve retail customers, businesses, current accounts, cards, everything that a bank could provide.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Oh, great. It seems like you put a lot of effort in, and may Allah continue to put barakah in what you're doing.
Ameen.
Brother Abdullo, please don't go anywhere. Stay here on the sofas. Our brothers and sisters, a quick message for you is that we're going to go on a break. I know you're really enjoying yourselves, but don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a moment.